Welcome back, deep divers. Today we are taking a trip into the quantum realm, so buckle up because we're diving into quantum mechanics. We've got some pretty interesting stuff to work through today, folks. So
Absolutely.
a discussion that kind of goes beyond just like the science itself, and it's going to touch on the implications of quantum mechanics and even, believe it or not, the power of belief.
It really is so much more than just equations and particles. Quantum mechanics really forces us to kind of rethink our everyday assumptions about, well, everything about reality.
Absolutely. It really is mind-bending. I mean, could we walk through walls? Does thinking about like winning the lottery actually improve your odds? This deep dive might just like totally change how you see the universe and who knows, maybe even yourself along the way.
Well, let's start off by establishing what quantum mechanics actually is. Essentially, it's like the physics of the microscopic world, the realm of atoms and subatomic particles. And here's the thing. The rules of this microscopic world, they're totally different from what we experience in our macroscopic world.
It's kind of like the source says, like, in our world, walking through a wall is a quick trip to the ER. But in the quantum realm, that seemingly impossible feat might actually be, well, possible.
Precisely. Now, obviously, the analogy kind of breaks down there. It's not about literally walking through walls.
Mm.
It's more about understanding that the behavior of matter at that level, at the quantum level,
Yeah.
it's inherently probabilistic and very often counterintuitive.
You know, for the longest time, even like the most brilliant scientists dismissed quantum mechanics as like total fantasy. But over the last like century, I mean, countless experiments have confirmed that this quantum world really does operate in these strange, seemingly bizarre ways.
And those bizarre ways, as you put it, have huge implications.
Yeah.
Take the electron, for example. But
Mhm.
we tend to think of electrons orbiting an atom, like planets orbiting the sun.
Yeah.
Each are like a defined path, a speed.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. It's like that classic picture from, school.
Well, it turns out that's not really the whole story. The source actually points out that as soon as scientists try to actually pinpoint the exact location or the momentum of an electron, it starts acting differently than when it's not being observed.
So it's not even that we can't know, like, both the location and speed of an electron. It's that, like, observing it, the act of observation somehow changes it.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Exactly. And that is where this concept of superposition comes in. An electron can actually exist in multiple possible states at the same time, all at the same time until you try to measure it. And it's only when it's measured that it sort of, I guess, collapses into a single, definite state.
Almost like it's forced to choose a reality when it's observed, huh? I mean, that really challenges, like, our whole idea of a fixed and objective world out there, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And this sort of leads us to another equally baffling phenomena, quantum tunneling. Imagine throwing a ball at a wall. Now, in our everyday world, obviously, it's just going to bounce right back.
Yeah, unless my aim is really off, which happens more than I care to admit.
Right. But in the quantum world, a particle, like an electron,
Hmm.
can actually pass through a barrier.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't have the energy to go over it, it's like tunneling right through it, defying, all of classical physics.
Which, makes me think about what the source said about, like, hard qigong
Right.
and how it seems to let, practitioners overcome physical limitations. Maybe there's like a connection there to quantum tunneling. It makes you wonder.
It's certainly an intriguing thought. And you know what? Even though we don't have all the answers yet, quantum tunneling has already led to, like, some really incredible advances, especially in technology. Like, think about the transistors that power our smartphones and computers.
Yeah, that's true. So from like seemingly impossible feats to, the technology we use every day,
Yeah.
quantum mechanics really is shaping our world. Speaking of mind-boggling concepts, let's move on to what might be the most perplexing of them all, quantum entanglement.
Now, this is really where the quantum world starts to feel like something out of science fiction. Basically, it's when two particles become linked or, entangled, and they share the same fate, no matter how far apart they are.
So, like, if you change one entangled particle, the other one instantly changes too, even if they're like miles apart.
Exactly. And the source was pointing out that this instantaneous connection, it's been experimentally verified over huge distances. There was even a recent Chinese experiment that showed entanglement between particles over 500 kilometers apart.
Wow, that's like over 300 miles.
Yeah.
It's like these particles are talking faster than the speed of light, defying the very fabric of space-time as we know it.
And that has some very profound implications. It challenged our ideas of locality. And it even raises questions about the nature of time. Does instantaneous communication really exist? Is distance just an illusion in the quantum world?
Now, those are some big questions. And speaking of big questions, the source even goes on to explore an even more controversial idea: the connection between quantum mechanics and consciousness.
Now, this is where things get really interesting.
hmm
Could our own awareness, our consciousness, actually be, like, intertwined with the quantum world? I mean, some researchers think so.
So we're talking like mind over matter.
Yeah.
Our thoughts can actually shape reality at the quantum level.
It's an idea that physicists and philosophers have been, like, kicking around for a while. The source brought up a couple of interesting examples that, kind of hint at this connection, like take the expectation effect. They did a study where students were told they were, like, exceptionally gifted, and those students actually ended up performing better on tests. It's almost like believing in their own abilities actually, like, influence their results.
That's like a really powerful example. Really makes you think, how much of our reality is actually shaped by our expectations. But what about that example of multiple personality disorder? The source mentioned that different personalities in the same person can, like, show different physical illnesses, right? How does that fit in?
Well, that's actually one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for a link between consciousness and quantum phenomena. I mean, think about it. If different personalities, which are basically different states of consciousness, can manifest like totally different physical conditions, well, that kind of suggests that our minds have a much deeper influence on our physical reality than we might realize.
It's like each personality is experiencing a slightly different version of reality. That's like a wild thought.
It is.
Yeah.
And it connects back to that idea of the observer effect in quantum mechanics. Like the very act of observing something, of being consciously aware, that seems to play a part in, collapsing that wave function and basically deciding which possibility becomes our reality.
It makes you wonder if, like, our beliefs and expectations are constantly, messing with the quantum world around us, shaping the reality that we actually experience. Which brings us to another fascinating idea that the source explored: the power of belief.
Yeah, the source really argues that belief isn't just some, like, abstract idea. It's actually a force that can shape our reality. They gave the example of Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. He had, like, so many rejections and setbacks early on, but he never, ever wavered in his belief that he would be successful.
And of course, he ended up being one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. It really does make you wonder if that belief, that unwavering belief,
Yeah.
is the key, right? Like the catalyst for, achieving something extraordinary.
The source seems to think so. They said that people who, like, accomplish amazing things often have this, like, unshakable belief in their vision, even when they're faced with, doubt and adversity.
It's almost like they're tapping into some unseen force, some quantum field of possibility, and bending it to their will. Speaking of bending reality, the source also talked about luck.
Right. They actually suggest that what we think of as luck could just be like, positive expectations playing out. Like,
Huh.
if you believe you're a lucky person, you're probably more likely to notice opportunities
Yeah.
and to, take risks that lead to positive outcomes.
It's like that saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get.
Hmm.
Maybe it's not just about hard work, but also about, like, cultivating that mindset that attracts good fortune?
And that brings us to, I think, probably the most mind-blowing concept of all: parallel universes. Could our beliefs actually be doing more than shaping our reality? Could they be creating completely different realities, different branches of existence?
Okay, now we're really going down the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
But I gotta admit, the idea of parallel universes is pretty fascinating. Is there a universe out there where I'm like a rock star instead of a podcast host?
Maybe. The source suggests that every choice we make, every thought we have, it could be splitting off into a new reality, like a new branch in this multiverse.
So there are, like, infinite versions of ourselves out there living out every possible, version of our lives.
That's the theory.
Right.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
Right.
But it does kind of offer a way to reconcile that idea that our beliefs could actually be shaping reality. Maybe each belief, each choice, it creates a new reality where that belief is true.
So instead of there being one objective reality, there are countless realities all happening at the same time, and our beliefs are somehow steering us toward the one that matches our expectations.
Exactly. Which leads to a really important question. If we actually have the power to choose which reality we experience, how do we do it? How do we consciously navigate this multiverse of possibilities?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? If we're all like quantum travelers, navigating this crazy multiverse of possibilities, how do we choose the right path? The one that, leads us to the reality that we actually want, the one that aligns with like, our deepest desires and aspirations.
Well, the source does offer some practical advice. They emphasize that, you don't need to be a quantum physics whiz to use these principles. It's more about understanding the basics and then actually like applying them to your own life.
So we don't need to, like, go back to school and get a PhD in physics to benefit from this stuff.
Exactly. It's more about shifting your perspective,
Yeah.
aligning your actions with your beliefs.
Okay, so what kind of shifts are we talking about here?
Well, one of the most important things to remember is the power of focusing on your beliefs. What you believe to be true about yourself, about the world, it has a huge impact on your reality.
So, like, if I keep telling myself I'm bad at something, I'm actually making it more likely that I'll fail.
It's definitely possible. The source makes the point that our beliefs are kind of like filters. They shape how we see things, how we act. If you believe you're limited, you're probably not going to take as many risks. You're not going to like step outside of your comfort zone.
Right, that makes sense. So how do we change those beliefs then? Like, do we just start telling ourselves nice things all day long, positive affirmations, that kind of thing?
Well, positive affirmations can help, but it's more about really cultivating this like, deep, unwavering belief in what you're capable of. The source talked about visualizing the things you want, feeling those emotions that you would feel if you'd already achieved those things, and then acting as if they're already happening.
So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, it's about like really embodying them, like feeling them in your core.
Exactly. And it's about taking action. Your actions have got to be in line with your beliefs and what you want to achieve.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So if I want to achieve something, I got to truly believe that it's possible. Visualize it happening, and then actually take steps to make it happen. Align my thoughts, my feelings, and my actions.
Precisely. And the source finished with this really powerful idea that we're all, in a way, creating our own parallel universes with every choice we make. They suggested that if we can learn to consciously direct our beliefs and our intentions, we can actually steer ourselves toward the reality that we, truly desire. That aligns with our highest aspirations.
Man, that's a powerful thought. Instead of feeling like, fate is in control, we can become like conscious creators of our own reality.
Exactly. And that's what's so amazing about exploring quantum mechanics. It doesn't just like, show us the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah.
It empowers us to take control of our lives and create the reality that we want.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into quantum mechanics and the power of belief, what's like the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
I think it's this. The universe is way more flexible and responsive than we often give it credit for. Our beliefs, our thoughts, our intentions, they all have an impact on our reality. So choose your beliefs carefully, cultivate a positive mindset, and dare to believe in the impossible because you might just be surprised by what you can create.
Well said. And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring this fascinating world of quantum mechanics. It might just change how you see the universe and your place in it. Until next time, deep divers, keep on diving.